Tokenization.
Tokenization, you've heard this term, that's the future of finance.
They welcome the tokenization. They see
you're tokenizing and it's
भारत देश में आज एक टोकनाइजेशन बिल लाने की आवश्यकता है कि इन बड़े बड़े एसेट्स को देश का आम आदमी खरीद सकता है और उसकी बड़ी रिटर्न्स का स्वाद ले सकता है. It's an urgent need for an asset tokenization bill in this country.
Welcome to the third episode of Money Mind. Recently in Parliament, MP Raghav Chadha raised an important point. India needs a tokenization law urgently. Not about crypto trading, not about speculation, but how real assets can be owned, traded, and settled using blockchain. So what is tokenization and why does India need it urgently? Tokenization bill proposed in the Indian Parliament, urged by MP Raghav Chadha, aimed at creating legal framework for real-world assets like real estate, infrastructure projects, intellectual property rights, etc. into digital tokens using blockchain technology. Goal is simple: to allow a fractional ownership of an expensive assets, hissedari, by breaking them into smaller tradable digital units, similar to how companies share work, but this time it is powered by blockchain technology. ये tokens वो इशू करेंगे जिन्हें कैपिटल और फाइनेंसिंग की नीड हो. ब्लॉकचेन एक सिक्योर्ड एंड ट्रांसपेरेंट रजिस्ट्रार की तरह काम करेगा जो इन टोकन्स की ओनरशिप, बाइंग, सेलिंग और इजी ट्रांसफर के लिए जिम्मेदार होगा. फॉर्मूला सिंपल है बॉस. एक टोकन की वैल्यू रहेगी टोटल एसेट वैल्यू डिवाइडेड बाय नंबर ऑफ टोकन्स इशूड. For example, imagine a commercial property valued at 50 crore rupees. This could be split into 50,000 tokens, each valued at 10,000 per token. Anyone could buy a token and thus own a tiny share of this commercial property. Each token represents a certain percentage of economic rights of the total asset value. Both the issuer and the token holder benefits from this. The issuer gains liquidity and reduced cost, while the token holder benefits from affordability and transparency. Why is Chadha proposing the bill? He says the bill would help middle-class Indians to access assets traditionally owned by wealthy or institutional investors like high-valued art, a chartered plane, intellectual property, and many more. He compares it to how UPI revolutionized the digital payments in India, making digital payments accessible to everyone. He proposes tokenization would do the same for investments. India's middle class typically invests in bank saving account, FD, and mutual funds, but rarely in commercial real estate or large infrastructure projects due to its high cost. Tokenization breaks these expensive assets into single affordable units, widening the access to investments. Now you must be saying that there is already something known as REITs in the market, but मैं आपसे पूछना चाहता हूँ आपके पहचान में कितने लोगों ने REITs में इन्वेस्ट किया है? Maybe because of its high risk, complicated taxations and other procedures. But to make this technically feasible and possible, blockchain acts as an important bridge. Now this is where things get interesting, where I will explain the process of blockchain and how it works. To understand this process from left, we have various asset classes from real estate to cars. For example, the first stage is to understand and verify the ownership of the asset. Like other asset classes, asset valuation is another necessity before creating the tokens or tokenomics. The next and most critical step is developing smart contracts. Before blockchain comes in, the asset must be legally ring-fenced. What does this mean? A smart contract must have the properties of a legal document. And how would you ensure that? There is something known as legal enforceability, which is a must in any form of valid legal contracts. जैसे बिना अंडे के ऑमलेट नहीं बनता, वैसे ही legal enforceability के बिना valid legal contracts नहीं बनते. After this, a smart contract is deployed on a blockchain. जब ये smart contract deploy हो जाएंगे blockchain में, then a smart contract will define total supply, कितने number of tokens issue किए गए थे, token, contract address, blockchain use, details of the blockchains, then the transfer rules, token standards. There are already token standards which are established by this day. And then the compliance logic, whether it is KYC compliant or has any whitelist. And then of course, corporate actions, which has the details of your interest, dividend, split, bonus, etc. This creates legal enforceability. Otherwise, without these steps, these tokens are just digital collectibles, ek hawa, practically useless. Once deployed, the tokens are minted. Each token represents a fraction of the total value, like we had in our earlier example of 10,000 rupees per token. These minted tokens, once owned, will be held in digital wallets by token holders, similarly how cryptocurrencies are held. इसका कोई काम नहीं आगे. Think of it as a programmable ownership ledger for real-world assets. Right now, the public blockchain are anonymous. The regulators won't allow that. This becomes a very important factor for a country like ours, where identity theft and KYC scams are at high. Regulators will need to strictly ensure that tokenized platform can add compliant smart contracts. Only KYC verified wallets can hold tokens, and any transfer to any unverified wallet is strictly restricted. One thing needs to be understood here. The product being complicated doesn't mean regulations and compliances also need to be complicated. Before moving forward, there is a bonus segment at the end of this video, which I feel you will be interested for. And there's a small surprise as well, so stay tuned to know it. An important question to answer here, how will these tokens move? Just like any other security or financial asset, this will be moved by a dual engine, primary market and secondary market. Primary market is a market where these tokens will be created, and secondary market is a market where these tokens will move. Everything else flows from this distinction. The primary market is where the value enters the blockchain for the first time. Asset is legally wrapped, legal document links this asset with a token. Then the smart contract is deployed, defining everything that you see. Tokens are then minted with a particular supply, and then the investor sends money. Tokens are issued directly to the wallets. Ownership is updated instantly. This is ensured by blockchain technology, which acts as the issuance ledger. The secondary market exists only after primary issuance. Here, no token is created, only ownership is updated. Existing tokens are listed on regulated exchanges. Peer-to-peer transfers happens only between buyer and seller. The issuer is never involved. Price is decided by market forces of demand and supply. Another important thing to note here is that the ownership updates immediately on chain. That is T+0 settlement. No registrar, no clearinghouse involved. Liquidity increases without creating any new risk. अगर अभी भी कंफ्यूजन है, बस ये सुन लो कि आईपीओस होते हैं प्राइमरी मार्केट में. एक बार शेयर्स लिस्ट हो जाते हैं, उसके बाद यही शेयर्स ट्रेड होते हैं सेकेंडरी मार्केट या फिर स्टॉक एक्सचेंजेस एनएसई बीएसई में. Now let's talk about the most important part, returns. How will returns like interest, rent, and cash flows be distributed amongst token holders? It's simple. No manual calculation will be involved. Smart contract will ensure automatic distribution of return proportionately to token holders. You own 1% of tokens, you will get 1% of returns instantly and transparently. No delays, no disputes. Every rupee is traceable, every payout auditable. It doesn't matter who bought in the secondary market, who bought in the primary market. If you hold the token at the time of ownership record, you will get paid. Now, what happens once these tokens mature? At maturity, projects are existed, principal gets repaid, assets are sold, investors or token holders get the final payout. Tokens are burned, smart contract closes, and an audit trail is maintained. And this brings us to the end of tokenization life cycle. If you have watched the video till now, then congratulations, because we are at the sad part of the video, because this bill will attract so many hurdles. The whole tokenization concept is built on transparency, and you know how much our country and politicians love transparency. This is where I see people delaying and derailing the bill. And if this happens, there will be huge repercussions, which I will explain in the next part of the video. Further, once tokenization is implemented, the chances of digital or cyber frauds will go up. Any new digital product will lead to cyber fraud risk. There will be leeches from the darkest corners of our society who will find ways to prey on innocent and naive people. This is why it will be very important for regulators to ensure at that time that they have a tight grip on KYC compliances and token transfers. अगर हम इसको seriously नहीं लेंगे तो बहुत ज़्यादा बैंड बजने वाली है. If India delays this, something very dangerous will happen. The Indian assets will get tokenized, but not in India, abroad. Imagine foreign regulators controlling them, foreign platform earning the fees, foreign currencies in your digital wallets. India risks becoming a supplier of assets rather than the controller of capital. And if this happens, India will have another colonialism, but this time digital. One needs to understand the tokenization is not a technological race. It is the jurisdictional competition for capital ownership. The other countries are already moving in. The regulatory frameworks are established in developing countries. The US, Singapore, European Union, and UAE have already introduced tokenization laws. The networks and platforms are already established, but outside India. We are already lagging behind in AI. We cannot afford to lag behind in tokenization as well. It is not about gaining expertise in technological advancement, but it is about the ownership and custodianship rights over our own assets. Hopefully, discussion will happen on tokenization and bill will be introduced in parliament rather than having useless and pointless discussions and people vaping inside the chambers.
बहुत धन्यवाद.
I hope you like the explanation and content. Please like, share, and subscribe. It motivates me to keep working on such topics and do the required research in order to present it to you in a clear and understandable way. So, see you soon. One smart mile at a time. Quick bonus before you go, and this one is for the finance nerds. Like tokenization, asset pooling, or asset restructuring has happened before and it still happens, but I'm talking about the time where it didn't go well. And yes, I'm talking about the 2008 financial crisis. The asset pooling that I'm referring to is related to the housing markets. The short form is MBS. And no, I'm not talking about the Saudi Crown Prince. Drop the full form of MBS in the comments, and if you get it right, you may be the lucky one to get a surprise in the upcoming video. So let's see who gets it right.